Hey, Soul Sparklers, it's all happening.
With a soul sparkle, soul sparkle. With a soul sparkle.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Soul Sparkle Living Show. I'm so excited for you to join me today and also to have my very special guest and wonderful, sweet friend, Jacqui Bryant. Welcome to the show, Jacqui.
Thank you.
We were just talking before I hit record, and I was like, wait, this is such stuff. We should be recording this. But we were just talking about how different seasons of our lives bring different opportunities. I'm going to call them opportunities, not challenges, because it just really sometimes presents itself in a way that we know it's helping us grow, but we also don't always know the way, right? Um, I would love for you to share with us a little bit of your journey, your adventure. I mean, going from, like deep military service and accolades and all of this to now living a life where you are speaking and teaching and writing books and really creating platforms for empathy, strength, intuitive discipline, like all these things that I love, these words that I really love. I'd love for you to share with us a little of your story and maybe how you got from where you were to what the work that you're doing in the world right now.
I'd love to. I think from my perspective, I've always felt a bit that yin and yang, that duality is the word that sort of always comes up to me now, that I've always sort of fought to go. I've always been a fighter. I was born, like you probably know, I was born 3 months early, less than 2 pounds, have always had that narrative, going this she'll never make it, christened in hospital. And the military, I wasn't one of those people that went all the way along, I'm going to join the military. That was not my pure passion of where I ended up. I actually wanted to either be a physiotherapist, commercial artist, and the military was it. My dad was in World War II. They met on a blind date at Luna Park in Sydney during the war, and I wouldn't be here apart from a blind date. So that was I guess, one of those magical moments. And I've always felt that to have had that life and to have been brought into the world to parents back in the 60s that were in their 40s, that I've had a big purpose. And the military was something that it was a long shot. I got accepted. It was in a time back in the 80s that there wasn't females in combat zones. It was very much a male dominated environment. And I still to this day remember the first time I fired a rifle and my lovely bombardier turned around and goes, "Ma'am, I've never taught a female before, let alone a Smurf." So I was very tiny, when I first joined, and it was actually a week after my father passed away. And I went to his funeral, and then I ended up in the military. And I think that sort of shaped me, made me grow up pretty quick as an 18-year-old to go, okay, it doesn't matter what you say or do to me in this environment. I've got a legacy that I've got to carry forward. And I always sort of felt that there was always this dichotomy that you could have sort of these two parallels that I couldn't, like you probably will have seen Officer and a Gentleman, for those that are that old, and Top Gun and that, and you see the stereotyping of what's meant to be a leader in the military. And I am not what you'd expect. I wear sequins. I am very empathic, and I've always sort of led with my heart. And I think I even get emotional even saying that, because one of the, I guess, my North Star is that beautiful quote from Lady Diana that says, "I don't go by the rule book. I lead from the heart, not the head." And that's probably something that sort of instilled in me the way I went. And I sort of wanted to bring that feminine into a masculine world instead of people thinking that there was no place for it. And I think that's sort of something that drove my career, and I showed that there was a different way to leading in a very military environment. I've investigated sexual harassment and bastardization. I've seen that side. And I've also seen how the systems can break when it's very much that binary thinking, that it's black white, that it's win lose. And so my passion now is to bring that duality back in, to go, two truths can coexist. And I think that's that beautiful thing that we were talking about. It's almost like the infinity symbol, that it's sort of like the ebbs and flows that you can integrate it. It's not that part that you don't have to have that constant conflict about one or the other. You can have both. And it's just at times that you'll step more into the masculine and sometimes it's more the feminine. And guys do exactly the same thing. So it's not just a female versus male thing. And I think that's something we truly tend to forget. And it was fascinating when I had that opportunity to speak on a few ships sailing out of Sydney. And one of the things that I used to talk about was an officer and a lady, which was obviously a play on officer and gentleman. And I'd get the audience to shut their eyes and I'd sort of throw certain words at it and sort of see, like if you said strength, and to put your hand up whether you think it's masculine or feminine or male, female, and just seeing the audience and how different genders react and sometimes even different sort of roles that they play. So you can't even say that all the women would say, because some of the women would put strength and put their hands up and go, I'm a woman, I'm definitely strong. So I think it's just breaking down those biases and a lot of assumptions about the way that certain people should look or act, because the world certainly needs a lot of healing right now. And the more that we can do it collectively as opposed to sort of like two magnets repelling.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many things I want to talk about now. I love that you have been a stand for women in the military and the fact that you can be strong and feminine, right? Like your whole vibe is so feminine to me. And I just remember like, okay, where do you buy those clothes? Because they're so beautiful, right? So you do bring this deeply feminine essence to everything that you do, but also this quiet strength, right? And I think that's where, at least for the women that I've worked with and that I'm friends with and that have been in my world for a long time, there is this sense of we have to be strong, we have to make it happen, we have to do all the things. And sometimes, based on the circumstance of the situation, we may have to do it by ourselves, or at least collectively as women together. We may not have always had the men to show up and support. So I think there's this beautiful shift happening, and not really to dive into like feminism, because I don't even feel like it's that. It's not about equality, like financially or any of that. It's more like energetic and emotional, if that makes sense, right? So it's like, just because I can bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan and do all the things doesn't mean that I actually want to do it alone. It doesn't mean that I don't want the support or the companionship or the love or the connection from a partner. It just means that when I don't have one, I have to do it. I have to do it by myself because that's the choice. That's the option. So I think the transformation or the conversation is around how do you go from being that stronger, independent, self-sourcing, successful female coming into a relationship and saying, okay, honey, I want a deep exhale now. I'd love for you to like hold me, or like that transformation. It's a very unique conversation. And I think a lot of men don't understand what it takes to do life on your own and then go from that into being like, okay, cool. Now how do we do this thing together? And I know you have recently-ish, I don't even know how many months it's been, 6 months, 8 months? I don't know. Time is so weird, but you're now with your divine counterpart. You are with your beloved in a beautiful sacred marriage. And I'm curious how those qualities of you being able to be strong and take care of everything, moving into this beautiful sacred partnership. I'd love for you to share if you're open to it, because I know this is part of the work I think you want to get into.
Yeah.
Right? Is maybe helping, because it is a transformation. It's a transition, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go from the boss of all the things to like, okay, now I do want provision and protection and providership. Like, how does that work when I've been doing it on my own?
That transition's quite it's like I chuckle because I look back at my darling husband and I can't believe it's coming up to 12 months. Like New Year's
Yeah.
Eve. New Year's Eve is New Year's
Wow,
Eve is
that's
12
almost
months.
weird. I
Yeah.
love it.
But I look back at my previous relationships and it's very much been an all or nothing. And that it's been like one's the breadwinner and one's the looks after the dinner and all the rest of it. Like it's not so much and one cleans the inside and one cleans outside. Like it's very black white. It's like, here's what you do, here's what I do. And then when Adrian came onto the scene and it was like, babe, you've worked really hard. I'll cook dinner, even though that I've probably cooked more in my life than him. And to have to go, okay, he goes, I get home before you do. So on the days I get home before you, I'll just cook. You've done your thing. And I went, I'm not used to this. And even in the relationship, he'll happily say, I pushed him away so many times going, I don't know how to deal with this whole, like, this real caregiver, because the two of us in my previous relationship were both in the same, we're both in the military, both very disciplined, both very focused, both, and I was becoming fully into my masculine, which naturally is not me. So I'd actually turned into someone that wasn't authentically me. And that's when I knew that something needed to shift. Hardest decision of my life to step away from that marriage, particularly with a gorgeous son. But now I can see how duality can work far more harmoniously if you just sort of go. And I still remember one of the quotes that I've heard Brene Brown actually say, where she talks to her husband and to go, darling, I can't do the 80% today. I need you to do the 80%. I'm only up for 20. And the two of them will talk to go, how much can I give to this today? And the other one then does a balance of the 100%. And that's how I sort of see how this has sort of evolved. It's to one day I'm the one going, oh, you go, you've worked hard, you sit down and do it. And then the other day it'll sort of transfer. But it did take a lot of adjustment. But I think it's also being very open and understanding what each other's love language is, and that one of them doesn't feel like it's a chore, or it's oh, okay, I have to do this because if I don't do it, no one's going to do it kind of thing. It's just that also that gratitude to go, thank you, and for them to know that what they do is really appreciated. Because I think sometimes you get caught up particularly if either one's the main breadwinner or one's the main provider or one's the main at home kind of person. And I certainly don't mean that in any derogatory kind of way, but if they're the one that's doing the support role, sometimes they just want to be acknowledged and seen, and they aren't doing it to get that acknowledgement, but still a few words of, I see you.
Long way. It goes a long way. It's almost like the appreciation versus expectations. I think with really anything, like I give love and I show care or nourishment or whatever it is, it comes from the purest part of our hearts, right? As a feminine. And when it is appreciated, it just gives us that warm, cozy, like, oh my God, they love it. They appreciate it. They feel love too. But for me, when it comes from a place of expectation or obligation, it takes all the fun out. And then if you don't actually ever say, wow, that was really great. Thanks, honey, for making that beautiful meal or doing that thing for me. Thank you. It just takes all the joy from the giving and the loving, you know? And so I think there's that fine line where you're right. We can't always be the 100%. Maybe today I've got 47%. That's all I can do. I've worked all the things, doing all the things. Maybe we go out for dinner, or maybe we do this. And I know that these conversations around food seem not that big of a deal, but the reality is these are the things that make or break life and relationships and make the joy or the suffering, in my opinion, in my experience, right? So I
Well,
think
look back at the hunters and gatherers. Like, look, if you go back into the world, it was one goes out and gets it. And that's the essence of living. If you don't have food, you die.
Yeah.
So, or the people broke bread around the table and the people, it was the gathering. So it's always played a pivotal role since day dot.
Yeah, exactly. I think too, the beautiful thing that I've learned after being, especially living mostly in Europe mostly for the last 10 or so years, it's been what a difference. And again, I don't know in Australia what the culture is like, but especially like in Italy, Greece, France, etc., especially Italy and Greece, maybe not as much as France, but this community vibe, this feeling of we all do life together, we eat it's meals and it's hours and hours of connection and conversation. I think how, at least in the US, we have underestimated the nourishment that comes from doing life in community. It's, you drive through and get a coffee. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what? What is that? Like in Italy, there is no drive through. There are no paper cups even. Like there is no styrofoam paper cup that you drive through and pick something up and drink a coffee in a car. Like, who does that, right? However, in the US, like that's every day. Like that's all the time, right? So even just the connection that happens, especially in Greece, they're more I think they might even be more serious. This could be blasphemy, but more serious about their coffee in Greece than they are in Italy. I don't even know. It's very serious. It's a very social time. It's where you get the scoop on what everyone's doing in the town, like what's going on, what's happening. Like the women at the salon or something, right? It's like the men at the coffee bar. So that's the time where you connect and you catch up, and it's very social and it is not rushed. And the ability to just like ease in to the day and have the coffee and the connection. And then you go to the work and you do the thing. And then after you go back to the place and you have another coffee or four or, cocktails or whatever. But it's just this different way of doing life from a place of connection and community. And I think when you infuse the nourishment of the food into that way of living, it does make it such a connection point. And what we were speaking of before we started recording is this idea for me of going from being in the US for a period of time and like literally eating broccoli every day because nothing really sounded good. Like I didn't have really an appetite, And I was just like walking a lot. I was not very social. I was like periodically social, little bits of social. Whereas in the Greek culture, it was like every day is a party, every day is connection, every day is a big meal. It's a big deal. And it was a big transition for me. And I'm curious for you guys, what is the culture like in Australia for community and connections? Like when you have meals, is it just the two of you? Is it you and your family? Is it you and your friends? Do you go out to the places? What is that like? Because I haven't been, and I'd love to hear kind of what your experience of that is.
I'd say it's become probably closer to the States.
Yeah.
It's whereas before there was a lot of like you wouldn't have TV on when like the family would all sit at the table and have dinner. Whereas now it's definitely got a lot of influence from because we're a small country and we've had quite a lot of like it's a tapestry now of a number of cultures. So you'll see still the communities that are coming into the country that are very united and still have that sort of pace. A lot of the islander culture that it sort of comes to Australia. And also if you think back to the Aboriginal culture, it's very much that community. Whereas the Australians, I think because we are such a multicultural country, it doesn't have the same. The one thing that I would say, a good Australian barbecue, is very much the gathering, and that's traditionally on the weekend. And then you've got your backyard cricket, or your street cricket, or beach, because obviously we've got a lot of beaches. So those sort of outdoor activities, I think, is where we slow down and have the community and that fun and that banter and really appreciate what we have. But on a day-to-day, it's very much, okay, you've got your normal baristas and your coffee go-to places. We haven't got as many drive-throughs. Sometimes I wish we did, but we've got because the queues are getting hard. But to get that coffee in the morning, you'll normally have little pockets of people from the office that'll go and get a coffee together. But then they're always watching the watch to go, okay, we've got to get back. We've got to get back. Everyone's sort of like, I think now there's very much, it's become far more rushed. I've noticed, and Sydney's definitely probably one of the busiest cities in Australia and the quickest pace. And people complain about the traffic because it's South Centre, sort of a business district. So I think it's definitely become a different vibe, and we've lost a lot of that community. Definitely. I think those that they keep their own communities now as opposed to that whole sort of integration, which is a shame because we have got such a beautiful, rich country.
Yeah. So I know that you're passionate, obviously, about this masculine feminine vibes. And I know that at some point we talked about how you were planning to kind of infuse some of what you have experienced, right? Not only from your military experience, but from your personal relationship experience, etc., into your work and into your teaching, into your speaking. Do you want to share a little bit about what your vision is for where that's going if you have one, or what you could dream up of what would be like utopia for you to bring through in terms of either speaking and or training or facilitating how to merge those two together? Because we all have both masculine and feminine energy. It's like more around what do you lead with and how do you create not just resonance, but I would say harmony between them, not only within yourself, but in your relationships as well.
It's, I what I'm seeing a lot more, and it's become pretty prevalent. Even now, we've got a large case that's a class action that's actually being put in by women against defence, and I'm looking at that as sort of reflecting back on what it was sort of back in 97 when I did the investigation into sort of the sexual harassment and bastardization. And one of the things that I really notice is that it's still a system. Like the system is failing the people it's there to protect, be it defense, be it contracts. Obviously, I've got a long background in doing commercial and contracts and what have you. And where we're letting people down is we're forgetting that under all these systems, we've got metrics, we've got KPIs, we've got everything else. And we're always trying to do something to show competition. And it's always coming from that binary thinking of someone's got to win for someone to lose. Like this, it's not a, how can we both win? And that's what I noticed a lot in the contracts. It's particularly even with AI. So it's coming into contracts to go, oh, here's all the transactions, and everything seems these days, everything's a transaction. Marriage is a transaction. It's a contract. Contracts are transactions. They're forgetting the relationship that underpins it. And where I'm seeing most of the systems fail is they're not looking at things in totality, that it's not one thing, it's not culture, it's not leadership, it's not someone's values, it's the full integration of that. And you've got to treat, as people know, like you take your whole self to work, you take your whole self back home again. How you show up in those two places, you're either wearing masks or you're being authentically you. But until you match the values and that individual to the place and what's right for them. And I went to an event actually before this call, and I was talking to them as to how they're actually now doing the recruiting into the military, and they're getting because it's been outsourced, and that agency is actually getting funds, like bonuses, for the numbers that they get into the military. So they're automatically getting a behaviour that's rewarding a number, as opposed to, is this person the right fit? So we're not, before we even introduce them into a system, we're harming people because we may not have put the right person into there. So you can't fix anything until someone knows themselves. Like that's the first part. It's self, then it's partner, then it's team, then it's family, then it's everything. And it depends on what the influence has been on that individual, what their family values have been, what factors they've had. We all come into the world exactly the same. Like that's a given. It's just then how things sort of play out as to how things change our trajectory. I'm more concerned at looking at people holistically and the systems that are here to protect things and going, it's sort of where that behavioural and the system itself meet and sort of playing in that grey space. And just like I said with the contracts and that, I'm bringing the colour back in. So I introduce things like the colour-coded contract, because people will look at things and go, okay, risk. And you'll automatically bring your bias in and go, risk equals red because it means danger, and going, well, actually, no, it could be an opportunity. It could be for growth. And it's just changing the way and the language that we use so that people can see things from a broader lens and be able to go, how do I fit in this piece of the puzzle? Because to me, it's almost like a honeycomb. So that's where bees are talking about community, and bees are talking about the strongest thing. And then you've got the queen bee, and then everyone knows their role. But if those interactions and they don't fit together in perfection, then you won't have the honey, you won't have the bees, you won't have life. And it's all about that pollination. So yeah, it's spreading the word.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you're bringing this essence, the awareness, this vision into a system that needs renovation, right? It really does, truly. One of the things I've been looking at lately is around, because my background is like in wellness and corporate wellness for 25 years, and it's how is it changing from this like biomedical model where we just care about your blood pressure and your body fat and your cholesterol into your socialization? Do you have deep friendships? Are you isolated? Because isolation is a greater risk factor for death than smoking, right? And that was one of the things that really became aware to me in this period of time when I was in Greece. It's like there's a lot of smoking, a lot of smoking, but there's also such deep community connection that they have a lower risk of all the things we have in the US because of those social connections, the depth of the connection. So it's very interesting to think about what if we had to just reevaluate the way we do everything in the lens of true well being for a population? How do we define it? What does it look like? How do we measure it? How do we implement it? Right. And like I was sharing with you earlier, I went from this like walking 10 miles a day, eating broccoli by myself, to eating all the things, being with people all the time. And that was a little bit like I felt a little bipolar because I was like, wow, that was a switch, right? But how do we find the middle ground? And I think if we can find that middle ground in all the areas of our life, right? Like you said, in the providership and the protection and the provision of who's doing the nourishment, who's doing the things, like find the middle ground. It doesn't have to be all on one person or all on the other, you know? But it feels like this really beautiful collaboration between the masculine and feminine, not only within ourselves, but within relationships to figure out how do we actually thrive as a society? Because I think what we're doing isn't working. What we've been doing isn't working. The comments and conversations that I see on social media of people that are unhappy in their relationships is remarkable. It's remarkable and heartbreaking because I'm like, how do we figure this out? And like what you said, it's coming into alignment within yourself that then helps you come into alignment with your partner, with your immediate family, which then you automatically bring that out into your community. And then that's what creates the culture, either of a company or a literal community where you live in. So I feel like there's such an opportunity for what you're doing and for all of us to really be more aware of the possibility that exists when we just communicate in a way that is loving, that is respectful, that is honoring, that is nourishing, that is in that like, hey, I'm not really feeling XYZ and being honored in that truth. There's just such opportunity in communication, I think, that I'm excited to see where it goes, but it's going to take an active role of transformation and willingness. I think that's the key is willingness, isn't it? We have to be willing.
I think, like as you said, that whole connection is so important. I mean, just look at the blue zones and all the studies that they've done into that, and it really is. I mean, we've got more vehicles to be able to have instantaneous connection, but people feel less connected. We've got more technology in that to have healthy population, and yet our health is declining. So everything that's been brought in, all these systems, all these quick fixes to make people healthier and what have you, yeah, we're going backwards. Like I'm watching pretty much everything go backwards. At the moment, I've got 3 immediate family members all going through cancer. Now, I've never had any history of cancer in our family. Why all of a sudden has that all sort of started at once? I think that's why Project Diana is something that I've started and take it back from, I guess, the history of where Project Diana came back. And that was back in 1946, which was actually in the US and the Signals Corps, where they sent a signal to the moon. And it was a radar to send to the moon to see how it could go through the ionosphere to come back and listen for the echoes. And I think, to me, and the reason it was called Diana is because the Queen of the Moon, which I now also can see that Lady Diana and her legacy as well about that communication and that connection. And to me, I'm going, if we actually listen to what isn't heard and actually look to what isn't written, then maybe we're actually going to be able to start sensing where things are going wrong before they do. Because I think all the signs are there. People get so disengaged at work, and you always can tell when they start going silent because they go, well, what's the point of saying anything? Because it doesn't do anything. No one says anything. No one fixes anything. So I might as well just keep my mouth shut. And that's why people become disengaged. And they resign or they move on. And then when they have their exit brief, someone goes, "Oh, well, why are you going?" And going, "Well, you want to know now? You didn't
No, it
listen
was
to me 10 months ago when I told you I was going wrong." So I think that's it, because there's everyone's so concerned. And I think that's where this dichotomy is, that on paper things can look brilliant.
yeah,
Figures can and stats can make things look great, and people can be performing at the highest levels, but inside they're broken
yeah,
and they're burnt out, or because there's no one when they go home to top their cup back up. They're all the things, like you said, they're all the things in the workplace, and then they go home and they're all the things there. And if they've got no one to sort of take some of that load off, it's hard, but they can put on the happy face. We go and put our mask on, and then we go back into the workplace. And that's a really sad state of affairs, that people are feeling so unsafe now to be themselves, and then flip it the other side. And then I think we're also starting to normalize all these other labels, like in the military and suicide now. It's horrific, but now there's a label with all the PTSD, and so for people to feel a sense of belonging, they're now actually saying, "Well, I've got PTSD," because it's a way for people to relate to them. You used to be in the military, so you must have had this, so you must have PTSD. And so there's all these other ancillary sort of secondary gains and these labels that people are wearing that really, really is doing a disservice to them as well.
there's so many things. Yeah, there's so many pieces of this that I want to anchor in. Yes, to the idea that people are at the point where they're not being heard in the workplace. So they're finally like, yeah, I'm just going to leave. Right. And it's not until you say I'm going to leave that people actually listen to you. But I would also say that's happening so much in their personal life as well. It's like, I need this. Listen, please help me. I need you to hear me. I need emotional safety. I need this. I need that. And over time, over long enough periods of time, when you're not heard, seen, or held in the way that you need to be, you leave out of self preservation, really. And I think that's the heartbreaking part, is that these are conversations that can be had and resolved. When there is an issue or something that's in need of repair, there's still time. But over time, just like in the workplace, if there's over and over and over and over, finally you have to leave, right? So I think the shift that's happening in the wellness and the corporate space and well-being, this is 25 years I spent in that industry. It's like we have gone from just focused on that biomedical model to the like psychosocial model, where we care about your well-being, we care about your mental health, we care about your socialization and your connection. And I'm kind of in this space of kind of birthing a different paradigm of this as well, of the biopsychosocial spiritual model, where you have to feel connected there has to be a greater purpose. People just can't come and like walk in and clock out. There has to be more depth to it, right? And the more we can help people find that connection, the more happy and fulfilled they're going to be. And I'm layering in my own little, bit of sparkle. So now it's the biopsychosocial spiritual sparkle framework, because there also needs to be this sense of magic and wonder and miracles and whimsy almost, right? Like there has to feel like there is something unexpected around the corner and something that we can be excited about. It's like that effervescence, right? That the thing that creates the magic and the vibes. And so that's part of the work that I'm really working on now, is this framework of how do we bring that model into our whole life, right? So instead of eating broccoli and walking 10 miles a day and not talking to anybody, versus eating all the things, drinking all the things, and being full on party every single day and not sleeping, there has to be a balance. Like we have to be able to do the things like we talked about the blue zones, bringing that all through of healthy food made with love, nourishment and connection and community and fun and great sleep and movement that's meaningful and connection. So I'm seeing all of these trends and shifts into doing a sauna, but making it social, doing like a spa experience, but creating connection into it. It's dance parties without drinking. It's all of these things where you can still feel the way you want to feel and have fun. Because Lord knows we all need to have more fun. Like these last few years have been so heavy really for everyone. I've not had one conversation with anyone that has not been like, what the hell has happened?
It just happened. Yeah. How did I end up in this movie that I didn't want to?
This life that we're in, right? And so which is exciting. I do feel a shift in the energy this month, which is great. Thank goodness. And I do think the next year is going to be different. I do. I feel that in my bones. However, we all still, I think, have a little PTSD, like you said, about really the last 5, 6 years. I mean, how's it even been 6 years? Has it been 5 years? 2020? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God, six, whatever. Anyway, time is weird, doesn't really matter. But at the same time, we need to have more fun. And so it's bringing this whole like, yes, we care about your blood sugar and we want you to laugh and like to be in joy, because the truth is when we are in our joy, right, that is when we bring the highest frequency to humanity, our highest evolution of light and love. So that's where I feel very passionate about like getting this masculine feminine thing down where it works for people and where they love each other and they love themselves and they're having crazy yummy intimacy and connection and feeling supported, and they have beautiful communities and are eating great food. Like, I know it's a full-time job, but I'm kind of here for it.
You and me both. Because it doesn't have to be. People have started to live like they've got to have this or that. Why can't you have both?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
can't you have both? Why can't you have like your lazy mornings and then your late nights and then you can have your early rising? It doesn't have to be that this is I'm programmed that I have to do it exactly the same way day in, day out. We're not robots. And I think that's the thing that we forget. It's like we've got so much essence and so much love and so much light and so much living that it's sort of there's the light and the dark. There'll be dark days, sure. But that doesn't mean that you then forget that and bring more light into it. And it's funny because I've done a few exercises and just to put it into like that whole sort of commercial space and going, okay, give me a contract and what color pen have you got in your pocket? And they'll always pick out a black pen or a blue pen and go, when's the last time that you used coloring in pencils? And they sort of let all these guys in suits and go, well, okay, here you go. Here's your pencils and here's your crayons. Color outside the line. It's sort of like, and then you start seeing the childhood, like that childlike playfulness come back into and the eyes light up and you're going, yeah, you've forgotten about that for a while, haven't you? So it's just, I think all it takes is just a constant, like different people in different angles, just sprinkling a bit of your magic and
Magic and fairy dust, darling.
I know.
Make you bite with a gold sparkly pen. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the next level. I love it. Well, I think we have a lot of work to do, but in a cool way, right? Like I'm excited, I'm inspired by really truly lit up by what's happening, what's coming, and the trends that I'm seeing, as a futurist, it's like I see where the things are going. I've always been a little bit ahead of the market, if you will. And sometimes it's been frustrating because I'm like, this is what we need to do. This is where we need to be. Especially when I was in my corporate job, they're like, well, what's the business case? I'm like, creating it. Like it hasn't happened yet. I'm telling you what's coming. You need to listen. And so I really feel strongly about this whole vibe of bringing it all together, bringing through this, like the elements of the blue zone and the elements of this, this new framework, this bringing in the elements of not just the biomedical model, but the psychological, the social, the spiritual, and like I say, the sparkle, bringing that together in a way that will support humans in having the fullest expression of joy and love and health, obviously, right? That's the foundation, the radiance, but it's the magnetism and the radiance that comes from having it all aligned, not just one part, not just this part, not just that bit. It has to be the whole thing. And I'm excited to be on this journey with you, Miss Jacqui B. I love it. I love this game. Thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure. Can't wait till I get you in real life. My God.
Look out.
Yeah.
2026.
It's
I'll be
time.
up to hug in person.
Yes. Yeah. Because we've missed a couple of years, which is just not acceptable, not okay. But it's all happening in 2026. I love it. So again, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your grace. And for all of you that are listening, we'll make sure that we create an opportunity for you to connect with Jacqui so you can follow her journey and adventure. And we hope that you will listen and join us on the next episode.
With a soul sparkle, so sparkle.